At number 5, we have the A40 A50, the original Supra. Before it was called a Supra, this machine started life as a performance-enhanced version of the Toyota Celica. The A40 A50, often referred to as the Mk1 Supra, hit the market in 1978. Built to compete with the Datsun Z cars of the time, the original Supra featured a longer nose and a 6-cylinder engine instead of the Celica's 4-cylinder. Under the hood, it had a 2.6-liter inline-six known as the 4ME, producing around 110 horsepower. Modest by today's standards, but it was Toyota's first real step into the performance arena. What it lacked in raw power, it made up for with comfort and reliability. It had advanced features for its time like 4-wheel disc brakes, cruise control, and even optional digital instrumentation. Visually, it borrowed heavily from the Celica's fastback styling, but with a slightly more Grand Tourer vibe. This wasn't a track car, it was a comfortable cruiser with a sporty edge. While not as famous as its successors, the Mk1 laid the foundation for what the Supra would become, a balance of power, precision, and presence. At number 4, we have the A60, the sharp-edged 80s icon. Now we're talking. This is where the Supra began to forge its own identity. The A60, also known as the Mk2 Supra, debuted in 1982 and fully separated itself from the Celica in terms of both design and performance. While the Celica went front-wheel drive later on, the Supra stayed true to its rear-wheel drive inline-six layout, which purists would come to love. The A60 came equipped with either a 2.8 L5 MGE or later the 3.0 L7 MGE inline-six, and power jumped up to a more respectable 145 to 160 horsepower. It featured double wishbone suspension, a limited slip differential on higher trims, and even an optional electronically adjustable suspension, super advanced for the early 80s. The styling was sharp, angular, and unmistakably 80s, with pop-up headlights and bold, squared-off edges. Inside, the car was high-tech, with digital gauges, electronic climate control, and bucket seats that hugged you in tight through the corners. The Mk2 Supra struck a perfect balance between performance and luxury. It wasn't just a sporty Toyota anymore. It was a serious player on the world stage. It was during this era that enthusiasts started paying real attention, and the Supra name began carving its place into car culture.
Come on, Robbie!
At number 3, we have the A70, the turbocharged Challenger. The late 80s brought in the third generation, the A70 or Mk3 Supra, and things got serious. Toyota completely broke off the Supra from the Celica lineup at this point, making it a standalone model. The body was larger, heavier, and more muscular, designed to compete directly with sports cars like the Nissan 300ZX and Mazda RX-7. This was the first Supra to feature a turbocharged engine. The 3.0-liter 7M GTE inline-six turbo made up to 232 horsepower and 254 pound-ft of torque, giving the Mk3 some real bite. It also featured electronically adjustable suspension and even an anti-lock braking system, cutting-edge stuff for the late 80s. Performance was respectable, 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds, and it topped out at around 150 miles per hour. Not bad for a Grand Tourer that could haul luggage and still blast down a mountain pass. But let's not forget the elephant in the room. The Mk3 was plagued by head gasket issues due to Toyota's torque specs at the factory being just a bit too light. That aside, with proper maintenance, this car is a beast and still highly underrated. The styling was bold and modern for the time, with smoother curves and those iconic pop-up headlights. This generation really solidified the Supra as a serious performance machine. It was no longer just a Celica's big brother. It was a heavyweight in its own right. At number 2, we have the A80 The Legend is born. Now we get to the legend, the Mk4 Supra. If the Mark III showed potential, the Mark IV absolutely obliterated expectations. Released in 1993, the A80 was a complete redesign, both visually and mechanically. It was leaner, meaner, and faster, built from the ground up to take on the likes of the Corvette, Porsche 911, and even Ferraris of the day. At the heart of this monster was the now legendary 2JZ GTE, a 3-liter inline-6 twin turbocharged engine that made 276 horsepower in Japan, but up to 320 horsepower in the US. And let's be honest, everyone knows that 276 was underrated. With some minor mods, people were pushing over 600 horsepower reliably. This was the tuning platform of dreams. With a 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds and a top speed of 155 miles PA, electronically limited, the Mark IV was a serious performance machine. But what made it truly special was the engine's overbuilt nature. Forged internals, iron block, and an ECU that begged to be hacked. Visually, the Mark IV dropped the boxy shape of the previous generation in favor of sleek curves, a massive rear wing, and an aggressive aerodynamic body. It looked like nothing else on the road. Add to that a 6-speed Getrag gearbox and near-perfect weight distribution, and you had one of the most iconic Japanese sports cars ever built. Thanks to movies like The Fast and the Furious, the Mark IV Supra became a pop culture icon, and today, clean examples are going for supercar-level prices. At number 1, we have the A90 A91, the modern revival. After a 17-year hiatus, Toyota finally brought back the Supra name in 2019. Enter the A90 A91 generation, commonly referred to as the Mk5. Developed in collaboration with BMW, it shares its platform and powertrain with the BMW Z4, a move that sparked major controversy but ultimately delivered a serious performance car. Under the hood, you get a BMW-sourced 3-liter inline-6 turbo engine, the B58, making up to 382 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque. And yes, it's fast, 0 to 60 in just 3.9 seconds. For those wanting a more raw experience, Toyota even released a 6-speed manual version starting in 2023. Visually, the A90 is all about drama. Sculpted body lines, flared fenders, and that double-bubble roof scream performance. While it may not have the pure Toyota DNA of its predecessors, it more than makes up for it with cutting-edge tech, razor-sharp handling, and legitimate track day performance. Yes, it's not a pure JDM car anymore, but it brought the Supra back to life, and that alone is worth celebrating. Whether you love it or criticize it, There's no denying the Mk5 Supra carries the name proudly into the future.